right. Okay. Hi, everybody. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so impressed by our two final teams and how much everybody here just loves books. It's so great to be in this atmosphere. And hopefully you all know who I am. Who am I? Yes! I'm Grace Lin. I'm an author and illustrator of many books, and I'm also the author and illustrator of one of the books that you guys hopefully read, and that is this book, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. Now, like I said, I'm the author and illustrator of all different kinds of books, and usually when students see all the books that I've authored and illustrated, they usually come up to me and they say, hey, which of these books, which one of these is your favorite? And up until about a couple years ago, I would say this book, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, was my favorite. And when I said this to students, they'd say, oh, I know why this book is your favorite. This book is your favorite because you got all those star reviews, because you got the Newbery honor, because you got to go on TV. That must be why this book is your favorite. And I would have to tell students I liked all of those things very much. Getting the star reviews was really nice. Getting the Newbery honor really was an honor. And going on TV was super fun too. But that is not why this book is my favorite. The reason why this book is my favorite is kind of hard to tell in a short answer. So I'm going to give you the long answer. And the long answer starts when I was younger than the readers here, and where I grew up in upstate New York. And this is where I lived, in upstate New York, with my two sisters, an older sister and a younger sister. I'm the one in the green. So where I grew up in upstate New York was a little unusual. And what was so unusual about it was there was no other minority families that lived in the area. That means there was no black people, there was no Hispanic people. We were the only Asian family in the whole town. So that meant that I was always the only Asian girl in my class. And except for my sisters, I was always the only Asian girl in my school. And that always made me feel a little weird. Okay, it made me feel a lot weird. I remember feeling very uncomfortable being the only Asian person in my class. So uncomfortable that I remember as early as kindergarten looking around and thinking, okay, I'm just going to pretend that I'm not Asian. I'm just going to pretend that I'm not Chinese. And that's what I did. And I did a really good job pretending. I remember one day in third grade, I was walking down the street, and I saw my reflection in a store window. And I said, hey, there's a Chinese girl there. And they said, oh, wait, that's me. It's because I had spent so much time pretending that I wasn't Chinese that I really did forget that I was. And in a lot of ways, it was really easy to forget. It seemed like there was nobody that looked like me anywhere. It's better now, but back then, there was nobody that looked like me on TV. There was nobody that looked like me in movies. There was nobody that looked like me in magazines. There was nobody that looked like me in school. And most of all, there was nobody that looked like me in the books I was reading. And I loved books, almost, I think, as much as some of the people here, some of the kids here. I loved books so much. And here are some of my favorite books when I was in third grade. And my favorite books when I was in third grade were actually like the ones right in the middle. You see that Rapunzel book? I loved fairy tale books. And the reason why I loved the fairy tale books was because of the pictures. I thought whoever drew these pictures was the most amazing artist in the whole world. And I used to copy and trace these pictures over and over again. And I used to wish that I could draw and paint like whoever did those pictures in those books. Oops, like that. Now, my mom was very sad that I was not interested in our Chinese heritage. She tried to do all these things to try to get me interested. She tried to teach me how to write Chinese. I wouldn't learn. She tried to teach me how to read Chinese. She tried to teach me how to speak Chinese. I wouldn't learn. She would buy me Chinese clothes. I wouldn't wear them. In fact, whenever she tried to teach me anything about our Asian heritage, not only would I not learn, but I would get really angry at her. Because like I said, I just wanted to forget that I was Chinese, right? So I felt like all she was doing was trying to remind me how different I was from my classmates. So my mom looked at me, and she saw that I liked books, And she said, okay. And she realized if I was ever going to learn anything about our Asian heritage, that she was going to have to sneak it in. And so, like I said, she looked at me. She saw that I liked books. She saw that I liked reading. She saw that I liked fairy tales. So she thought to herself, okay, this is how I'll sneak it in. So she went out and she got about 6 to 12 Chinese fairy tale books, Chinese stories that had been translated into English, and she put them on the bookshelf in the living room. She didn't hand them to me because she knew if she handed them to me, I'd just say, you just want me to read them because they're Chinese, forget it, and I wouldn't have touched them, right? So she just put them on the bookshelf in the living room, and she hoped that I would find them and read them. Well, my mom was very smart and very sneaky because I did find them, and I did end up reading every single one of them. However, even though I read every single one of these books, I was not very impressed with these Chinese fairy tale books. You know, all you readers here, you probably in school, you learn about what makes good writing. You know, you talk about similes or metaphors or voice, all those things, right? Details, descriptions. These books did not have any of those things. These books were Chinese stories that had been just very simply translated into English. So it didn't have any of those things that make the stories come alive that we talk about. But what I really, really didn't like about them were the pictures. These books are printed on really cheap paper, and they just had these little black and white pictures like this, which I did not think were that impressive, especially when you compared them to the beautiful, full-color illustrations of the European fairy tales that I was reading at the time. So you could see why I didn't think those books were that great, and I didn't really think that those Chinese fairy tales made that much of an impression on me. But I was wrong. Because many, many years later, I grew up, and I kind of felt bad that I didn't know how to speak Chinese. I kind of felt bad I didn't know how to write Chinese. I kind of felt bad I didn't have any Chinese clothes. And I started doing all these things to try to learn the things that I didn't learn when I was younger. I took Chinese classes, I bought Chinese clothes, and I went to travel to China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. And all of a sudden, on my trips there, all of a sudden, those stories I had read so long ago, they started coming back to me. I'd see a sculpture of a dragon, and I'd say, hey, that's just like a dragon in that story I read in 3rd grade about a dragon. What happened in that story? Or I'd see a palace, and I'd be like, oh, this is like a palace where a magistrate would have lived in, like in that book. What happened again? Because it had been such a long time since I had read those stories. And remember, those stories did not have a lot of details to begin with. So I started adding my own details, creating my own characters, mixing up the stories. And that's what became my book, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. So Where the Mountain Meets the Moon is very much inspired by my trips and travels to China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. So much so that you can see the things that I saw in my trips in the books. For example, this right here. This is a mountain village that I saw in China, and I took this photo. And from this photo, I drew this picture. And from this picture, I did this painting. And this is one of the illustrations in Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. So Where the Mountain Meets the Moon is very unusual because even though it's a novel, it has full color illustrations in it, right? Most novels don't have any pictures in it. And if they do have pictures in it, they're usually just black and white, right? But for me, I really wanted my book to have full color illustrations. And that's because I remembered how I felt when I saw these cheap black and white pictures in those Chinese fairy tale books, and how it made me feel like these stories weren't that great. It made me feel like these books weren't that special. And I didn't want anyone who read my books to feel that way about the story I was writing that was based on these same stories. So I worked really hard to try to get my book as beautiful as possible. So you'll notice that the paper is even thicker, like the normal paper. You'll notice we spent a lot of time with the fonts, with the kind of type that we use, even the type decorations and all those things, and of course, the full color illustrations. And everything, all the full color illustrations are inspired by something I saw on my trips and travels. For example, this right here is a garden that I saw in Shanghai, and I used it for the King's Garden. This right here is a moon gate that I saw in Taiwan. You can see how I used it for the Old Man of the Moon. And not only did I put the things that I saw in my book, I put the things that I learned about in my books too. So when I would travel to China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, I would see all these sculptures and I would see all these different figures, important figures, and I'd be like, who are these people? And I would write it down and then go home and research it. And some of these legends and figures, mythological people, are in my book. For example, this person right here. This person right here, you'll see him a lot in Hong Kong. He is called the god of marriage, or the old man under the moon. And most people call him the god of marriage. And the reason why he's called the god of marriage is because as soon as a baby is born, he takes a red thread out of his big red bag there, and he ties one end of the red thread to that baby's ankle. Then he looks in his book of knowledge, and he finds out who that baby's gonna marry when he or she grows older. And he goes and finds that future husband or wife, who's hopefully also a baby, and he ties the other end of the red thread to that future husband or wife. So you have these two babies who are connected by this red thread that the old man under the moon, or the god of marriage, has tied. Now this is a very magical red thread. Nobody else in the world can see it or touch it. The only person who can see it or touch it is the old man under the moon. But it is definitely there. Because as these two babies grow older and older, the line between them starts getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and it starts pulling them closer and closer and closer together until they eventually meet and they get married. So that's why he's called the god of marriage, because the idea is that it's his red thread that he tied to you when you were a baby, that to your future husband or wife somewhere out there in the world, and as you both grow older, the line between you is getting shorter and shorter until you eventually meet and get married. So that is the myth of the legend of the red thread, and the myth of the old man under the moon. And you can see how I used him in my book. But I changed him just a little. I called him the old man of the moon. And in my book, he doesn't just tie together husband and wives. He ties together anyone you're destined to meet. It could be your best friend, your uncle, your teacher. It could be anybody who's going to change your life has been brought to you by the red threads the old man of the moon has tied. And there's other characters from the book that are from Chinese mythology too. Do you guys remember the character of the buffalo boy? Yeah. Okay, so in Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, there's a character called the buffalo boy. And the reason why he's called the buffalo boy is because it seems like he has nothing else in the world except for his buffalo. He doesn't have any parents, he doesn't have any aunts, he doesn't have any uncles, he doesn't even seem to have any friends. But when Min Li meets the buffalo boy, he tells her that he does have one friend, a friend that he met in a really mysterious way. One day, the buffalo took the buffalo boy out of the city to this beautiful magical lake where 7 girls are bathing. Of course, when the 7 girls saw the buffalo boy, they all screamed, and 6 of the girls flew away. 1 girl stayed in the water. The buffalo boy was not sure why the girl was staying in the water until the girl said, "Hey, your buffalo's sitting on my clothes." Well, the buffalo boy was a gentleman, gave back the clothes, and that's how they became friends. And they became such good friends that she comes and visits him every once in a while, but always late at night when nobody else can see her. Well, on the night that Min Li stays with the buffalo boy, she gets a glimpse of the buffalo boy's secret friend. And when Min Li sees the buffalo boy's friend, she is very intrigued because this girl is very, very beautiful. And not only is she really, really beautiful, she seems to know things that most normal people wouldn't know. And at the very end of the book, Min Li realizes who this girl is. She realizes that the buffalo boy's friend is no ordinary girl. She's actually a goddess. She's the goddess of weaving. And that's how it ends in my book, that Min Li realizes that the buffalo boy's friend is the goddess of weaving. But in Chinese mythology, the story continues. In Chinese mythology, the buffalo boy and the goddess of weaving grow up, fall in love, get married, and have 2 kids. But the goddess of weaving hides her marriage from her parents because she is a goddess. She is not supposed to be marrying this lowly buffalo boy, right? And she's afraid if they find out, they might get angry. Well, she's right, because they do find out and they get really angry. So angry, in fact, that they swoop down from the heavens and they grab the goddess of weaving away from the buffalo boy and her 2 kids, and they drag her all the way back up into the heavens. And they're so angry that they say, "You two will never, ever meet again." And to make sure that they never, ever meet again, her parents throw a whole river of stars in between the earth and the heavens. So you have the buffalo boy and his 2 kids on earth, and you have the goddess of weaving up in the heavens, and they can kind of see each other as these 2 teeny weeny figures. But there's this huge river of stars in between the earth and the heavens, and they do not know how to cross this river of stars. So they think they will never ever meet again, and they are so, so sad. And everybody on earth feels so bad for them. And not only do the people on earth feel bad for them, but so do the animals of the earth feel bad for them. And the animals feel so bad for them that all the birds of the world get together. And the birds say, hey, let's help this poor couple out. One time a year, all of us birds, let's make a bridge from the earth to the heavens. And the buffalo boy and the goddess of weaving can cross this bridge of birds, and they can meet one time a year. And so they do. So one time a year, all the birds of the world gather together, and they make this bridge from the earth to the heavens. And the buffalo boy and the goddess of weaving get to cross this bridge of birds, and they get to meet one time a year. And that one time a year is Chinese Valentine's Day. So here in the United States, we have Valentine's Day, right? But we call it Valentine's Day because it's based on St. Valentine's, and there's lots of chocolates, and there's hearts and cupids and all those things. But it's really just our day to celebrate love, right? Well, in Asia, they have a Valentine's Day too, but they don't really call it Valentine's Day because it's not based on St. Valentine, and there's not a lot of cupids, or there might be chocolate, but there might be some hearts too. But it's not based on any of the things we have. It's based on the buffalo boy and the goddess of weaving, the one day a year that they get to meet. That's Asia's day to celebrate love. And so a lot of my stories are based on Chinese folk tales. And remember how I told you that my favorite book, I used to say that my favorite book was Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. Well, after Where the Mountain Meets the Moon came out, I came out with 2 other books, Starry River of the Sky and When the Sea Turned to Silver. And all 3 of these books have what I love about Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. They have the stories that I read when I was younger. They have my memories of my trips and travels in it. They have the full color illustrations in it. So all these books are kind of tied for my favorite of all the books I've written and illustrated. And like I said, all of these books have little stories mixed in the big story, and the little stories are based on real Chinese folk tales. And what I thought I'd do now is share with you one of the folk tales from When the Sea Turned to Silver. Would you like to hear it? Yes. All right, can we lift the screen up? Okay, so the best stories are stories where all the listeners have a role. So I'm gonna ask some of you to help me act out this story. Actually, all of you, but I need some specific volunteers. I need 4 really good, loud readers, people who love to be on stage. Okay, so 4s, let's choose the Ghostbuster with the glasses. All right, let's choose, let's choose the person with the glove on her hand up there. 2, okay, and then let's choose all the way in the back in the corner, and then let's choose this person that's jumping up and down. Okay, all right, so come on up. All right, and I also need an adult volunteer. One adult volunteer. It is not us, it's a non-speaking part, so don't worry about it. You guys come over here. Okay, let's see, adult volunteer, somebody, let's see, this man up there, come on up. All right, okay, you guys come over here. All right, so I'm gonna have you be the snake. All right, so you can give me 1 arm, 2 arms. All right, and this is for you. Do you mind putting this over here? There you go. That's your mask. Okay, this is your part. All right, everybody, you guys ready? Okay, let's see. Whoopsie, 1 second. All right, and then see. Oh, this is yours. Okay, you don't have to button it, it's all right. All right, 1 second. All right, thank you for being patient. This is acting weird, but we'll make sure that's all right there. Okay, all right, ready? All right. When the Sea Turned to Silver is a book filled with many stories. Each story is a clue to explain how the mighty sea became silver. Today, I'm going to tell you one of my favorite of these tales, the story of the red stone. So imagine you were the Chinese villagers many hundreds of years ago. You were gathered around a roaring fire in a hut on the side of the mountain. The winter winds rage outside, but you pull your jackets on tighter, scoot closer to the fire, and look up at the storyteller. Today, I am the storyteller. Storytellers are happiest when villagers are involved with their stories. Watch our village elder, this is our village elder, who will show you the words to say in unison and the sounds to make all together. Together we will tell the story of the red stone. Shall we begin? Yes! Ready? There once was a time when the sea overflowed and it churned with monstrous beasts. The chaos of the sea was devastating to the fishermen who could no longer fish. The families of the fishermen were poverty-stricken, barely able to scrape a handful of rice for dinner. In one of those families, there was a young boy named Kuang. Kuang tried his best to help his family. At dawn, he would leave to look for firewood to sell to the other villagers, packing a single dumpling for lunch. So I will be Kuang, and here is my pack that I'll put on my back to make sure I can carry all my wood. And oh, I can't forget my one dumpling that I'll have for lunch. My one single dumpling. I'll put that in my bag because I don't want to lose my lunch. All right. Even though he was a small boy, Kuang never returned home until his back was loaded. One day, Kuang found a small forest with a wealth of wood. He quickly got on his knees to gather all the fallen branches. As he did so, he saw something red reflect the sun filtering through the trees. Curious, he picked it up. It was a red stone. It was small and round and smooth, and while it did not glow, it was so shiny that Kuang could see himself reflected in it. It was rather pretty, so Kuang thought he would give it to his mother. He put it in his bag and continued to gather wood. But something unexpected happened at lunchtime. When Kuang went to get his one dumpling for lunch, he opened his bag and found not just one dumpling, but two dumplings. Kuang was sure there had only been one dumpling in the morning. He scratched his head. Then Kuang pulled the red stone from the bag. Had the stone done something? So, when Kuang returned home that evening, instead of giving the stone to his mother as he planned, he decided instead to slip it in the family's nearly empty rice jar. So here's the family's nearly empty rice jar. Here we go. Nearly empty rice jar. See? You guys up there can see, right? All right. All right, so he puts it in there, and he's like, all right. He's like, maybe they'll give me some more rice. They gave me two dumplings, right? But it took all morning for two dumplings, so I guess I should give it some time. He says, so I'll just let it sit overnight. So he lets it sit overnight, and the next morning, before anybody in his family woke up, Kuang tiptoed to the rice jar and peeked in. The rice jar was full. It was the stone, Kuang said to himself. Kuang's family stared in disbelief at all the rice. But after Kuang told the story of the red stone, however, his father shook his head. That stone does not belong to us, his father said. You must return it where you found it. Ashamed, Kuang returned to the mountain forest. When he arrived at the place where he found the stone, he saw an old man standing as if waiting for him. Oops, hold on a second. Was this your stone?
There are 3 things of Nuwa left here on earth: a tear, a strand of hair, and a drop of blood. You are holding the drop of blood. If you are pure of heart, the stone will bring the sea king to calm the waters.
The Sea King? If the Sea King could calm the waters, the monsters would stop coming to shore. People would no longer be afraid of the sea, and my father could fish again. The world would return to normal.
To find him, you must bring the stone safely to the top of the mountain north of the village.
I have to bring the stone safely to the top of the mountain north of the village? But no one goes to the northern mountain. Evil beasts plague the way. But to have a Sea King. Okay, you can sit down over there. Ouch. All right. Sorry. So Kuang turned and began to make his way to the northern mountain. To get to the northern mountain, Kuang had to cross the abandoned black bridge. As he stepped forward, a monstrous snake sprang from the water, and Kuang saw horrible sharp teeth coming toward him like flying daggers. But right before they snapped upon him, the snake caught sight of Kuang's prize.
The red stone. You wish to go to the north mountain.
Yes.
Do you know terrible Hai?
The horrible Hai? Yes. He is the wicked bully of the village. I know Hai and his cruelty all too well.
I will let you pass if you agree to let me the years of trouble Hai's old mother, or I'll kill you right now.
You want me to bring you the ears of horrible Hai's old mother? Never! I have my own mother, and I would never harm another's.
Then die.
The snake hissed, and it seized Kuang with its knife-like teeth up into the sky and flung him away with all his might. Kuang landed painfully on the ground, across the lake, bleeding and gasping. The stone was still in his hand, but now it was red from his own blood as well. With great effort, he pushed himself up and began to stagger towards the northern mountain. He had only made it halfway across the plain when a large black shadow began to circle around him. Above was a gigantic, vile bird, green poison shining on its feathers in the sun. With a horrible shriek, it landed in front of Kuang, its foul smell making him flinch.
The red stone. You wish to go to the northern mountain?
Yes.
Do you know horrible Hai?
Yes.
I will let you pass if you agree to bring me the bones of horrible Hai's younger brother, or I will kill you now.
Never! I have my own brother, and I would never harm another's.
Then die.
Shrieking, the bird grabbed Hai with its stabbing claws, flew into the sky, and flung him away with all its might. When Kuang was finally able to open his eyes and sit up, he saw that he sat on the northern mountain. The sea stretched below him, and the stone was still in his hand, and the top of the mountain was not far away. So although he sobbed with pain, he knew he could not give up. Swaying and stumbling, he made his way to the top of the mountain. But just as he was reaching the top, he heard a loud shout that filled him with dread. It was the horrible Hai.
Give me that stone.
Kuang clutched the stone. He could not let Hai have it. Should he throw it into the sea? But then, I'll never find the Sea King, Kuang thought. What should I do? The ruffian had almost reached him. His ugly face jeered as he saw that Kuang was trapped.
Give me the stone, or I will get you.
Never! And so, to keep the stone from the horrible Hai, Kuang took the stone, put it in his mouth, and swallowed it. Immediately, an excruciating pain burned inside him. A noise bellowed from his throat, startling Hai and himself. And then Kuang fell backwards off the cliff. The sky seemed to embrace him, for the wind blew around him as if coating him with a new skin. The pain of the stone began to dissipate, but Kuang could still feel its power pulsating. His whole body felt as if it were bursting. Kuang stretched his hands in front of him, and in shock, He saw they had turned into claws. His arm was covered in scales, and as he plummeted downward, he saw his reflection in the strangely still water. He had turned into a dragon. The sea stirred. A wild whirlpool began to spin, its white waves becoming a herd of dragon horses racing to herald him in. When Kuang touched the water, a crashing roar echoed, and the entire sea opened, as if welcoming in an honored ruler. For it was Kuang, the new Sea King, had arrived. The Sea King! So Kuang proved on the mountain that he was pure of heart. He would not hurt others, not even to save himself. Kuang proved himself worthy of being a king, and he became the majestic dragon that now rules the sea. And that's the end of that story. Do you like it? Take a bow. All right. 1, 2, 3, take a bow. Good job. All right, you can take off all your things and put it on the table there. How much time? How much more? Okay. All right, great. All right, so this is a story that I tell at a lot of the schools that I visit, this story about Kuang. And sometimes when I tell this story to small kids, sometimes they get a little upset because they're like, oh, he turned into a dragon, oh no, because they think that Kuang turning into a dragon might be a bad thing, because they're probably thinking about European dragons. You know, European dragons are those evil dragons that are always eating princesses and need to be killed by knights of the round table, right? Or any kind of knights or heroes and things like that. But that's very different from an Asian dragon or a Chinese dragon or an Eastern dragon, because the Eastern dragon is completely the opposite of the evil European dragons. The Eastern dragons are considered very noble and compassionate and protective. In fact, they're honored in Chinese culture. If you talk to anybody in Asia, they'll be like, oh yes, the dragon, we love the dragon. So for Kuang to turn into a dragon was actually a great honor. And so that's why it has a much different meaning than it does it has a much different meaning when it's a Chinese dragon. So, because like I said, in Chinese culture, a dragon is much honored and considered protective and good luck. So what I thought I'd do now is teach all of you how to draw your own good luck dragons. Would you like that? All right, so if you have your paper and pencils, take it out. All right. Now, I have a red marker here. If you know anything about Chinese culture, you know red is a lucky color. Red is considered lucky because red is supposed to be a color that scares away bad luck or bad spirits. So that's why they say red is lucky. Now, I'm going to teach you how to draw a lucky Chinese dragon, okay? So, first things first, your paper should be vertical, which means tall up and down, all right? Do not have it side to side. I want you to look at your paper. This is the top of your paper. This is the middle of your paper, the bottom of your paper. You're going to start your picture in the upper middle, in between the top and the middle. Do not start it here. Don't start it here. You'll run out of room, okay? So first, we're going to start right here in the upper middle. We're going to start with the eyes. And to draw the eyes is just like a pair of glasses. It's like circle, line, circle. All right, now remember I was talking about evil European dragons, good, noble Eastern dragon, right? So there are certain things about Chinese dragons that make them Chinese, so that when you see them, you know that they're a Chinese dragon. First thing is all Chinese dragons have horns, okay? If it doesn't have horns, then it's not a Chinese dragon. So we're going to draw some horns. First things first, go where the line meets the circle, and you're going to make a sprouting line that comes out this way. From that sprouting line, I want you to make a lowercase m, 3 humps that come in. 1, 2, 3. From that lowercase m, I want you to make a line that goes halfway and stop. Do not go all the way, just halfway and stop. All right, that's one horn. Let's go do the other horn. Where the line meets the circle, makes another sprouting line in that direction. You're going to do 3 more humps, but they're going to come inwards, so it's a backwards lowercase m. 1, 2, 3. And then another line that goes halfway and stop. All right, 2 horns, connect the 2 horns together with a straight line. All right, Chinese dragons have eyebrows. So let's give them an eyebrow. So the way we draw an eyebrow is you go right here on the horn above the eye, and you're going to make something that kind of looks like a 3-humped butterfly wing. It goes 1 hump, 2 hump, and 3 hump. Have an end on the eye. All right, let's do that to the other side. 3 humps butterfly wing eyebrow. 1, 2, 3. All right, now we're going to do the dragon snout. But after we do the snout, we're going to do the mouth, the chin, and the beard. So do not make the snout take up all your paper, okay? You want a nice long snout, but not so long that it uses your paper up. To make a snout is very easy. All you do is you make a U that goes from one eye to the next. Okay? Dragons need to breathe. Chinese dragons, all dragons need to breathe. So let's give them a swirly nostril on each side. Okay, now the story I just told you about Kuang, he's actually kind of an exception to the rule of Chinese dragons because he is the king of the sea. But almost all the other dragons in Chinese culture, they are the kings of the sky. They are the ones that take care of the wind. They are the ones that take care of the clouds. Everything in the sky obeys their command in terms of like the weather. So the one thing that Chinese dragons never have is wings. Chinese dragons never ever have wings. They don't need wings because the winds in the sky and the clouds will take them anywhere they want. So if you ever see a dragon with wings, it is one of those evil European dragons. You should probably run away. So a Chinese dragon has no wings. But a Chinese dragon always has a mustache. So give your dragon a nice swirly mustache. All right. We are making these dragons for good luck. And because we want good luck, we want them to be happy. Because if we make them look sad, he'll be too sad to give us good luck. If we make him angry, he'll think we're the bad guys that bring us bad luck. So let's give him a big, happy smile. And he is so happy. Let's give him lots of teeth. There's a big, toothy grin. He's like, I love you. All right. So after you give him all these teeth, he needs a chin to hold up all those teeth, right? So we're going to give him a jaw or a chin. And the way you do that is from one corner of the mouth, do a curved line down like that. And from the other one, go do a curved line down like that. And then you connect those 2 lines together with another curved line. That's the chin. All right, now we're going to do the dragon's beard. And this is where you can decide what kind of luck you want your dragon to bring you. Because in Chinese culture, there's some lucky numbers and there's one unlucky number. And the number of whiskers you put on your dragon will signify the kind of luck that you want him to bring you, or her to bring you. One lucky number is the number 6. Do you guys know what a homophone is? Just in case you don't remember, a homophone is a word that when you say it, it has 2 different meanings. Like when I say the word flower, I could be talking about a rose, or I could be talking about that stuff we bake with, right? Well, the number 6 in Chinese is a homophone. When you say the word 6 in Chinese, you could be saying the word 6, or you could be saying a word that means smooth, or easy, or peaceful. So let's say you're going to take a test next week, and you want the test to be easy. You could put 6 whiskers on your dragon. Or let's say you have 2 friends that are always fighting. Well, you could put 6 whiskers on your dragon, and he'll bring you some peace. Another lucky number is the number 8. When you say 8 in Chinese, it sounds like the word for prosperity, or fortune, or money. So let's say you're feeling a little short on cash. You could put 8 whiskers on your dragon, and he'll bring you some money, or an opportunity to make money. Another lucky number is the number 9. When you say 9 in Chinese, it sounds like the word for forever, or long life, or good health. So let's say you're feeling a little sick right now, and you're coughing. You're like, I wish this cough would just go away. You can put 9 whiskers on your dragon. He'll bring you a nice long life and some good health. So another reason why I wanted to tell you about these lucky numbers is because you remember those books I showed you? It was Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, Star Over the Sky, and When the Sea Turned to Silver, those 3 books. Those 3 books are inspired by these Chinese lucky numbers. You guys read Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, right? That book is about the number 8, because Min Li is trying to change her family's fortune. Well, the prequel to Where the Mountain Meets the Moon is Starry River of the Sky, and it's about the number 6. And because in that book, Rendy, the main character in that book, he runs away from home because he's so angry with his father, and he is searching for peace. And then the sequel to both of them, or the one that comes after all those two, is When the Sea Turned to Silver. And that's about the number 9. Because in that book, the main characters, Padme and Nishan, they go on this quest to find something called a luminous stone that lights the night. And on the way, they find the secret to immortality, or living forever. So I hope that you guys get a chance to read the other books. But in the meantime, we should think about what we want for our luck, right? So this is how you do it. Let's say you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's if you want peace. But let's say it's not peace you're looking for. Let's say we're looking for money. So we'll put 2 more, 6, 7, 8. But let's say we're not looking for money. We're looking for that nice long life. Put 1 more, 9. And so think about what kind of luck you want and put that on. Oh, I forgot. Do you guys want to hear about the bad luck number? Yeah. Okay, so do you know, here in the United States, we have a bad luck number, right? We do not like Friday the 13th. Yes, we do not like 13 so much that if you get into an elevator of a skyscraper building, you will notice that the elevator buttons will go 11, 12, 14. We skip the number 13 because we think 13 is so unlucky, no one should live on the 13th floor. But if you go to China and you get into an elevator of a skyscraper building, you will notice that their elevator buttons will go 11, 12, 13, 14 all the time. They do not care about the number 13. It's just a number to them. But you will notice that their elevator buttons will go 1, 2, 3, 5. They will skip the number 4. And the reason why they skip the number 4 is because it's another homophone. When you say the word 4 in Chinese, it sounds like the word death, or to die. So unless you want to bring death into your life, do not put 4 whiskers on your dragon. All right. Now, we're almost done. We just have one more thing to finish our dragon. If you read Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, you know that the dragon only came to life when his eyes were dotted in. So our good luck only comes to us when our eyes are dotted in. So do you feel lucky? All right. All right, I think it's time for questions. Is that right? All right, questions?
Do I just ask it? What kind of luck does the dragon in Where the Mountain Meets the Moon bring?
What kind of luck does the dragon in Where the Mountain Meets the Moon bring? I think the dragon in Where the Mountain Meets the Moon is not a specific luck. It's just the general luck of being a dragon. So he brought good luck to Min Lee and his family just by being himself, and by being himself and going back home.
Thank you. Before you leave, I do want to remind you, Up North TV is recording this event. You can watch it on channel 189 or on upnorthmedia.org. So, and thank you, volunteers. We really appreciate it.
In Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, what is Dragon's real name?
In Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, Dragon's name is Dragon. He doesn't really have, so he was born of a painting, so that was what he basically named himself Dragon.
Upstairs. Is there a question in the balcony? Yes. Go for it, Zoe.
Do you have any recommendations for one of your books?
Do I have a recommendation for one of my books? Let's see. Well, I told you my favorite of the books that I wrote and illustrated are those books that I showed you, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, Starry River the Sky, and When the Sea Turned to Silver, so I hope you read those. But if any of you are aspiring author and illustrators, I would suggest you read my book, The Year of the Dog. it's all about my own personal life during my during my very first Chinese Year of the Dog, and it is in that story where I decide that I want to grow up and become a children's book author and illustrator. So maybe that might be interesting for those of you who aspire to do the same kind of thing.
In Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, what inspired you to make the lion cub 868 years old?
Because 868. Because 808, 6, 8. Lucky numbers. That is what inspired me.
Why is Minli's name Minli?
Why is Minli's name Minli? Minli is actually a real Chinese name, and it really does mean quick and clever. So that is why I chose it. It's also kind of a Chinese equivalent to Emily.
Is there a name for the Valley of the Fruitless Mountain? Or the Valley of
Is there a name for
the Fruitless Valley?
For Fruitless Mountain?
Yeah.
I just decided I admit I made up Fruitless Mountain. And so that's the name.
Okay. So Dragon, in the book it said he had emerald green whiskers. Why did you make him have emerald green whiskers and not like pink or yellow or orange whiskers?
I wanted to make him red because red is good luck, and I just thought when I was painting the illustrations, I thought green looked nice with the red.
Who's your favorite artist?
Who is my favorite artist? Okay, fine artist or illustrator? I guess I'll answer both. The first, I don't know if these are my favorite, but the first ones that came to my head, the first one that came to my head for artist was Matisse, and then illustrator was Trina Sharp Hyman. But those are, I don't think those are my favorite, but those were the first ones that came to my head.
And Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, who are the sisters of the goddess of weaving?
Oh, in Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, who are the sisters of the goddess of weaving? Well, she has 6 other sisters. Do you know how there is a constellation in the sky called the Seven Sisters? So it's the same those are the seven. That's what these seven sisters are based on, and that's in Chinese mythology as well as I think European mythology is the Seven Sisters. And so that is her other sisters are those 6 other stars in the sky.
How long does it take to get to China?
How long does it take to get to
China.
Oh, how long does it take to China? Well, it depends on how you fly, but it's a good, I feel like it's a good, it feels like a good 22-hour flight.
What inspired you to write Where the Mountain Meets the Moon?
So there's many different inspirations for Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. Like I said, it was the stories I read when I was younger. It was my trips and travels to China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. And it was really just also, I was hoping that I remembered those stories when I read when I was younger. And those are actually really amazing stories, but I really didn't respect them back then. And I was hoping that if I could kind of rewrite them, they would give them a new appreciation for kids, for all of us.
How many books have you made?
Okay, how many books have I made? I could answer that in 2 ways. I could say I've made about 150 books, but not all of them have been published. I think I have about 30 books that have been published. So not every book that I make gets published. There's a lot of books I have that are just sitting in my drawer that will probably never see the light of day.
When did you first think to write Where the Mountain Meets the Moon?
When did I first think to write Where the Mountain Meets the Moon? That's a good question. I think I decided to write Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. I just finished The Year of the Rat, I think. And I think I just wanted to write something different. And I think I always wanted to write stories with those Chinese folk tales. And so I decided to give it a shot. Oh, and I remember now. I'm sorry that I forgot. Cricket Magazine asked me to do. They were doing an issue on dragons, and they asked me to do the cover of their magazine. And I did the cover of the magazine. They said you could do whatever you want, and I did a Chinese dragon and an Asian girl riding the Chinese dragon on the cover of the magazine. And I loved this image so much, and I wanted so much to do a book or a story about it. And so that kind of inspired me to write the book.
What is your favorite Chinese folktale?
which is my favorite Chinese folktale? I can't remember who's asking. There you are. My favorite Chinese folktale is actually I put a little bit of it in When the Sea Turned to Silver, but it's the magic paintbrush, about a boy who has a paintbrush and everything he paints comes to life. So, and that is a little. There's some of it in When the Sea Turned to Silver, but I hope to do more with that later in the future.
What of the 3 books that you shared is your favorite or your most honored?
Well, that's hard to say. Where the Mountain Meets the Moon won the Newbery Honor, and When the Sea Turned to Silver was a National Book Award finalist. So it's kind of, whereas Starry River Sky didn't get anything. It got some nice reviews. It got a lot of starred reviews. But I think the one that is the best written is Starry River the Sky, which didn't win anything. But I think the one that I'm proudest of is When the Sea Turned to Silver. And the reason why I'm so proud of that is because that book took me like 6 years to write. And I was not sure I was going to be able to actually make it all come together. And the fact that it did, I am very proud of.
In Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, which of the stories that Ba tells is your favorite?
And Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, which of the stories that Ba tells is my favorite? Let's see. My favorite is actually not the one that Ba tells. My favorite is the one the Goldfish Man tells, where he changes his fortune, where he gets a long life. I think my favorite one that Ba tells would probably be the first one, where he talks about, that's I think the one where he talks about the moon, where the dragon gets, where not the dragon that Min Li meets, but a different dragon finds the pearl and polishes it and turns it into the moon that we see in the sky.
What is your favorite book author?
Who is my favorite author? Okay, this is not my favorite author, but the first one that came to my head was Lucy Maud Montgomery of Anne of Green Gables. That was the first one that came to my head. She's one of my favorite authors. I don't know if she is my favorite. I also really love Natalie Babbitt, who wrote Tuck Everlasting, but my favorite book of hers is actually called The Search for Delicious.
Hey, we've got the pizza. It's arrived, so we're going to do 3 more questions.
What was the favorite part of your trip when you went to China?
What was my favorite part of traveling to China? My favorite part to traveling to China was the food. I love having all the really, really good Chinese food and food that I never tried before. So that was my favorite part, I have to admit. I lived through my stomach. Anybody else?
I go. How long did it take you to write Where the Mountain Meets the Moon?
Oh, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon took me about 3.5 years, maybe 4, depending. When the Sea Turned to Silver took 6 years, but Starry River in the Sky took 2.5, 3 years.
If I wanted to get a book published, who would I call or where would I go?
So to get a book published is is not an easy thing to do, and even after you've gotten a lot of books published, it doesn't. Like I said, remember I said I had like 150 books in my drawer. I've written 150 books. So even after having written all these books, I might send something in and it still won't get published. So that's something to think about. But what you do. Nowadays, what you have to do is you have to get an agent. So you have to send what they call a query letter, which first you have to write your book. Second, you have to write a query letter, which basically is a letter that sums up your book to an agent. You have to hope that an agent is interested in your letter and wants to see the rest of your book. Then you send your book to your agent, that agent. If the agent wants it, then she will take you on and she will send your book to the publishers and hopefully sell it to a publishing company, and then you will have your published book. It's a very, very long process. I do not know anybody who's gotten published faster than 3 years.
Wow. Well, on that note, please give Grace Lin a hand.